going on, y'all? I have a little mic. It's not working, so we're just gonna have to deal with the shitty camera audio for now. But yeah, you'll still be able to hear me. I'll talk as clear as I can, and yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video about something I've been frustrated with for a while now, and I'll use an example. I'll use Dungeons and Dragons as the example, but I just started running a campaign on Thursday called DragonLance. Now, if any of you are in the D&D sphere or know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, you would know that DragonLance is a pretty big campaign. You would know that it's one of the biggest campaigns that they've made as far as like popularity. And anyway, they just came out with last year DragonLance for 5th edition. Now, there's nothing at first glance wrong with it. I mean, it plays good, the pace is good, all that is good. But if you were to just go through some of the art in this book, it's hard to kind of comprehend what they're thinking, what their ideas are, and why they choose the art styles that they choose, or not even really the art styles per se, more so the types of art that they're drawing. I'll just go ahead and show you an example here. Let's go to okay, humans. Okay, it's giving a description of humans in this page, on page 24 of chapter 1, and it's going over the races, the playable races in D&D. I'm not even sure if they want to even call them races anymore. I seen a thing where they were talking about calling them species, because race is what, controversial or something? I don't know. But let's get to the humans. If you get into the humans and you see the pictures to represent humans, it's a little funny. I just think it's a little funny. Nothing immediately shouts at you as to why it's funny, though. I think you got to take unless you have unless you think like I do, which I'm sure many of you do. But let's just go here. So you have gnomes, right? There's a good representation of a gnome. That'd be pretty good. That's a good one. But then you have humans, okay? Girl archer. Girl bandit or something like that. What's this? What's that? That's is that a woman? At first glance I thought it was a woman, and she, just because the soft kind of features, but there's no definite chest area, so it's hard to tell. And this is by design. This is by design. This is not like they didn't just draw this and they were like, we're going to draw a less than feminine female, or we're going to draw a feminine man. This is, in my opinion, to confuse you, as many of these people are likely confused. Now, this isn't necessarily wrong, or nothing wrong with this, but it's just funny. These are the representations of humans in the world. Now, if you know anything about DragonLance, you'd know that the world is in terrible shape. It's in awful shape. There are wars going on. There's a series of dragon riders, groups of dragon riders going around, and they're destroying the land. They're pillaging villages, and rumors are starting to spread around, but it's not getting, they're not spreading at the rate that you would imagine they were, because the dragons, or Takhisis, the leader of the dragons, the evil dragon queen, she's making sure that she quells as many of the rumors as she can. So, land ravaged by war. 300 years ago, there was this great cataclysm that pretty much put the entire world into strife, and the continents on this planet called Kryn are divided by landmass. They're divided by waterways, and or some of them are joined where they hadn't been joined before because this great cataclysm happened that sundered the land. People are xenophobic in this world, incredibly xenophobic. They will only work with each other if they have to destroy a greater enemy. And then when they're done working with each other to destroy said greater enemy, they go back behind their respective borders. With this new wave of thought that America is in, a lot of people, especially the writers of these books, don't like the concept of borders. They think that there is something hateful about borders. And that resonates with their art and with their writing. I'll give you another example here of just this blurred line between... It's really a blurred line between gender, and it's a blurred line between race. The town you start in, for instance, is called Vogler. The town is multicultural, multiracial, and I'll give you an example of how that is. Now, there's a party that's going on in Vogler. It's the Kingfishers Festival, and now if you look at some of this beautiful art, what do we see? We've got people lazing around, woman, man, that's fine, whatever. Mixed race woman with white mother and daughter. It's all, you could see it's pretty multicultural. I don't know what you'd call that. It's, I don't want to outright say that this is just wrong. It's not. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing crazy about this necessarily. But it's just funny the art they choose to put in here. And it's funny that they picked this town of Vogler, because if you go look on the old DragonLance, written in 1984 or 1982, published in 1984, these people that wrote it have a really good idea of, and a really good sense of what people would feel if their worlds were torn apart, if they couldn't trust anyone, right? Vogler is a small town on the map in the old version that is undescribed. It's an undescribed town. So they picked the most undescribed town and they made it for a newer audience. And this is where my discrepancy comes in. It's making things, revamping things, and making them softer for newer audiences. I think when you do things like that, you diminish the quality of your product because you are assuming that the newer audience isn't going to be able to accept the brutality that comes with the context. And it's insulting on one hand, and on the other, I imagine to some people playing, it might be freeing. They might feel liberated by such a thing. They open the book and all the art mimics their reality or their world, albeit their worldview, in my view, is skewed some, because why would this town, Vogler, be the only multicultural, multiracial kind of safe haven? Why would that be? Why would it not be tucked behind its borders like every other town is? And you maybe could say, well, it's the town the party is starting in, so the town must be accepting of all backgrounds, creeds, and cultures, because how would it accept your party if they all came in and they were all a mixed bag of folk? Now, in my party, we have a dark elf. Dark elves aren't native of the planet of Kryn, but we've found a way through creativity and sitting down and thinking about it for a minute to work him into the story. And if you have read any of the Drizzt novels, you would know that there is Drizzt at one point. He had to use a mask to hide his identity, to appear as a high elf, so that he could go into a city that is prejudiced against dark elves, because the world is medieval themed and prejudiced. Why? Because other races have made it a point to kill other races because they deem them lower than themselves. Okay, this is based in fantasy, but it's based in the real world too, in a sense, if you go look at anything historical. It's not right, but it just happens to be the way it is. And it's just a little silly to me that the fantasy has to mimic the modern world, the modern zeitgeist. It has to mimic it. And I think that's incredibly wrong to do to fantasy on all fronts. It's not just Dungeons and Dragons. I'm just using that as the catalyst for the conversation. There is many other examples that I could bring up. You could bring up the Witcher show, for instance, on Netflix, and what they did with Henry Cavill. They've, in the last season, he barely has any action at all because they hate the idea of strong men. And I think that's really the core issue here, is that they don't like strong men, and they don't like fatherhood because they're all fatherless. My father is a piece of shit. My father left me when I was 12 and to do meth and go fuck with whores and do all that. Was he a strong man at a time? Yes. Did he instill into me, though, before he left, some qualities of being a strong man? Yes, he did, even though he himself now is not a strong man. But, I grew up watching things like Lord of the Rings. One of my favorite fantasy ever, Lord of the Rings, best trilogy ever made. And it is littered with strong men, and it is littered with evil, weak men. And who destroys the evil men? The strong men. The strong men destroy the evil men. It's not little girls. It's not people who care about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not people that care about any of that. They care about protecting those who can't protect themselves, or those that are so outnumbered and overwhelmed that they need help. The only thing that can save them is a force of good, strong men that come along and vanquish the evil from the world. If you go outside and look around, there are weak men abound everywhere. And I mean that not by just first look. I mean that by their actions, by the things they do, the things they're purchasing, the way they speak, the whole way they carry themselves, the way they walk, how their entire mannerism is weak-minded and defeated largely because of the world around them. And when you take those things and you put them into fantasy also, you start to mimic it in fantasy. There is no refuge for strong men anymore. Strong men, I have to change so much of this to make it make sense, okay? There's a character in here named Ispin Greenshield that all your party meets. He's not in the original DragonLance. I don't know what starts your adventure in the original DragonLance. I need to study up on it more. But from what I have studied, I know that the world is inherently, because of the circumstance, it is racist. The world is xenophobic. It's sexist. Okay, because the people that wrote it in the 80s, even though they weren't racist, hateful, and sexist, they understand that certain circumstances could draw people in large mass to those thoughts, and for better or for worse. Okay, but when you start to mimic the real world, the current thought, and you start to put it in all of fantasy, I mean, I could probably name 10 off the top that have completely taken fantasy and turned it into, as frank as I can say it, a bastion for LGBTQ weirdos, absolute freaks that don't care about the source material at all. Star Wars. I had just started getting into Star Wars in probably 2016 or something like that, somewhere around then, and there was so much good lore to dive into. There were so many things that I could read and study on. There were Star Wars Legends, albeit not canon anymore. or it never was canon. But anyway, there's legends. There's so many good stories, and they make sense in the world. They make sense in the world. What these writers, and you can look up these people. You can look them up, and you can go look at their LinkedIns. I'll just post a few of their LinkedIns here. If you go look at some of these people, some of these names, you can look at their bios on their social accounts. You can look at their you can look how they look. You can just judge, and you shouldn't judge based on looks, but combine it with the things they write, combine it with their bios, and then all of a sudden their appearance fits into the fold instantly, like that. It's not hard to see why these people would create such dog water shit. Anyway, I got sidetracked there. Ispin Greenshield, the man you all meet to start your journey, or the man you all knew beforehand. He's passed now. Connects your party. He traveled around with 2 other people, okay? And one of the people, Becklin Vaharin, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. It doesn't really matter, because I'd only be stepping on the toes of weirdos. But let's see. Let's go look at Becklin. So the first thing you hear from Becklin is your characters receive a letter from Becklin. And she's explaining how Ispin has passed, and he wishes that all the people that have had great effect and left him with good memories, and the people that he's had great adventures with, because he's a renowned adventurer. He adventured all over the place. She wants to fulfill his final wishes of inviting all these people that he cared much about, okay? So, your party, no matter who they all received this letter, and that's how they have common ground. They all were friends with Ispin. So you start off with, this is the only thing you start off with from Becklin. The letter she writes, okay? Now, when I first read the letter, I imagined it was a knight man, okay? You get over, a couple pages and you see who Becklin is. So Ispin traveled with this female knight, okay, which is fine. She's okay. She's all right. But you got to think about the relationship between men and women, okay? And what the relationship between men and women would be in medieval times. And I understand this is not based in history, okay, but it is fantasy based, if it was real, thousands of years ago, okay? There are no gender roles to these people. These people they don't understand what gender roles are. And again, they hate strong men. They can't stand strong men. Strong men are a threat to them. So in every place they could, they've inserted a female to do what is largely a male's job, which is fight wars, right? Men fight the wars. That's not even a controversial statement. Men fight the wars. All right. So Becklin, she's a Salamnic knight. She can be a Salamnic knight. Magic in this world might be the equalizer between men and women, right? Because if a woman's a mage, she could, spit a ball of fire at you and you'd be gone, right? She's not. There's no magic hardly in this world, because magic is gatekept by the the wizards of high mages of high sorcery. It's gatekept, right? So she's not magically imbued. She just is a knight of Solamnia. Now, I don't know what criteria she had to pass to be able to rank amongst the strengths of men to become a knight of Solamnia. But again, these people don't care about gender roles. They don't admire strength. They don't admire men, okay? So anybody could be a Solamnic knight, even this dainty girl, okay? So you read that he had that friend, right? And you read of another friend he had, Cudgel Iron Smile, okay? So they want you to believe, they want you to be immersed in a world where an adventuring old man travels with 2 females everywhere he goes. He just would travel with these 2. Black dwarf girl, skinny white woman. Okay, and this echoes the people that write these things, because they want to see themselves immersed in fantasy. They believe when you turn something on, you should see yourself in a character based purely on look, not by merit, not by your actions, nothing like that. It's just, I want to see myself physically. And you can see this all through this book. Okay? And that's my grief here. And all the men that they show are skinny little white boys or skinny little Asian boys that just are the most unthreatening, softest men you can imagine, okay? The softest boys you could imagine, okay? Because, to bring it back, they hate men, they hate what men do for the world because they don't have fathers, and they believe that the wrongs their fathers have done to them is what all men do, okay? And I truly believe that they're scared of men, largely. And it's because they don't have men around them to show them what men are supposed to do. Okay, men take care of their families. Men take care of the people around them. Men stop evil from happening. Men stop bad from happening. You can't replace that. You cannot replace that with a 110-pound female or a black dwarf girl who looks like a frumpy lesbian. You can't, there's no replacing that. And you will argue, people will argue, that it's fantasy. It's fantasy. And they can do whatever they want. Well, go find 5 IPs. Go find 5 IPs in the fantasy sphere right now that are popular. That are, Disney Plus has made a series out of them. Hulu's got a series. They're making movies that are in theaters that only make, $30 million opening weekend. Go find 5 where they hone in on strong male presence saving the world. Find 5 popular ones. That's a challenge for you. It's a challenge for me because all these people are freaks in my view. They are. You have to be a freak to not acknowledge the good that men have done for the world and the things that men have built. I mean, you look outside. It is a world built by men, for better or for worse. It's a world built by men, and to take that away from people and take that away from children when children are growing up and all the men they see around them are soft beta males, cucky little boys, okay, then what are they going to do? Like, what are they going to look up to understand that the importance that a strong man has in the world? Men should be strong to protect their families. Men admire strength because with strength comes protection, safety. You can grow a lot from having a basis of strength, okay, and an understanding of what a man's duty is on this world, okay. And again, it's just fantasy. I grew up watching fantasy. I grew up around, at a time, strong men playing role-playing games, playing Dungeons and Dragons. All my uncles were pretty strong men at a time. They've all let alcohol corrode their mind, and they've drugs and shit like that. So I don't acknowledge them as strong men anymore. But at a time, they were strong men, and they did instill in me what it means to be a man. And in all the the fantasy I would read, the Drizzt books, he's a dark elf man. He's strong, he's noble. His writings, Drizzt's personal writings to himself, resonate with everyone. Everyone, whether you're a man or a woman. Okay? Because he's speaking on what men do for the world and what bad little cucky men do for the world, which is burn it and destroy it. Okay? Little men, little dudes that, and I don't mean physically little, I mean little in the mind. Little cucky men are dangerous for the world. And if you keep making fantasy only represent, let's find one here. Little dudes that look like this, which is fine. He's a bad guy. He's supposed to be a little shit, right? or little dudes that look like this, he's a good dude. He's a good guy. And I'm not saying that dudes look like this are inherently bad. I'm not saying that. If you want to misconstrued, that's what I'm saying. You have the right to. I'm saying that that the only strong men you see in here, though. Let's find one strong man. Let's find one physically strong man. Oh well, wait. We have another BIPOC skinny little girl character. Let's keep going. Okay, wait. Here we go. We have. How do you say that name? Jayev Veldruz. Strong looking guy. That's a strong looking guy. But does something about him look slightly evil? Does something about this guy look slightly off-putting? A little bit to me. Something about him looks a little snaky. Okay? So there's your first strong man who looks slightly snaky. That's just my opinion, that he looks snaky. But let's continue on and try to... Okay, this right here. I thought this was the best art in the book, is this. Okay, because you've got strong man, strong woman, and a bunch of whole leagues of strong men. Okay, whether they're evacuating a town, moving into a town, whatever they're doing. Someone who drew this picture might understand the importance of a strong man, but I doubt it, because they're all, if you go look at these people's LinkedIns and go look at their profiles, they are a bunch of silly billies. So let's see how many strong men we can find in this book. That's some battered soldier guy. Oh, here we go. First strong looking guy. Pretty good. I'll take that. And it's funny because we spent many leading up to where we're at now in the world, many years making black men wear dresses in media because black men are... A lot of black men understand the value of strength. Okay, a lot of black men understand that. Okay, and Hollywood thought that they could just, California, whatever you want to call it, Hollywood thought that they could just take black men and start to demasculate them. Okay, and in a large part, if they really had it their way, they really would have this guy in a dress. They'd love to put this guy in a dress and paint his face up like a clown. But whoever drew this, more power to you, because that looks like a strong male presence. All right, and you go over, and get on through here. Oh, you fucking demon. Okay, here we go. Here goes some strong men. But wait. Is there any consistency to what I stated earlier? To how the borders are shut off? And how people don't fuck with each other because of a war is going on? Just observe this art and tell me what would be maybe wrong with the world that they're working in. The world that they are creating, the world that they've taken the lore from the 1980s, which is irreplaceable because of how good it is. And they don't even work with their own rules that they set. They don't work with the own things that they do, much like many of the shows and many of the movies coming out now. They don't understand what it is to be consistent in geography, in just how humans are. Okay, and I'm not saying that this army couldn't exist, but these white dudes hanging out with Asians and black dudes, and it's just if there was no IED. Or DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. If there was none of that, and that wasn't like pounded in your fucking face all the time, this would go unnoticed. This might would go unnoticed. But since that's in mind, that whoever was painting this had it in the mind that I have to check these boxes. I gotta check off Asian dude. I gotta check off reluctantly white dude. And this is all reluctant, though. This is all reluctant because these are all strong figures. These are all strong men, from what it appears, which, again, they hate. If they didn't have to check these boxes, then this would not be as weird. And if the world that they're working in hadn't set these strict rules, this would not be as weird. But everywhere you go through this book, you're going to see this. You're going to see that even though they're going by these rules, the art does not imitate what the rules they've set, the world space they're working in. It just doesn't, and it's very weird. It's very like I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it's freakish shit. It's freak shit. Because if you're working with a lore that you've been, you're working on, it's a 40-year-old lore, 30-something, give or take, why not work within its rule set? You can't work within its rule set because you have to check boxes and you have to include everyone. No, you don't want to leave anybody out. You don't want to leave 90-pound female out who can't lift her own weight. You don't want to leave her out. But you can't make her a grand magic user unless she's a mage in the Order of High Sorcery because of the rules they've made. Because magic is shunned in large in this world. So, I don't know. It's just weird. But you guys give me your opinion on that. That's just my take. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But I deeply love fantasy. Fantasy has crafted who I am. I grew up understanding that men are needed in the world and that weak, evil men need to be destroyed because they only do bad. They only do bad. Little cucky, little submissive little dudes. What good could they bring to the world other than making but what could little submissive dudes give to the world other than this kind of stuff? I don't know. But yeah, that's it.